Okay. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to bring you back.
Why didn't you come back? No, not at all, never.
That's one question.
Welcome back, everyone.
Okay.
So, just in the quick break, me and Phil were having a chat about a good model that you can take, and we were saying that the model that you developed was a model that worked literally everywhere. After you left from the DAT,
Yeah.
what happened with that model?
Oh, right.
All right.
I think what happened, well, when I left the DAT, I moved over to Hodge Hill constituency, because Hodge Hill headhunted me to become the drugs needs analysis strategy manager, and that just took it into a different phase, a different orbit. You know, I was then responsible for the constituency of Hodge Hill, and what I did with both roles, which I think kept us on track, was I had a strategy for each role, which is in the book. So the model is in the book, and which is really useful, really, when we're talking about models. But we wrote another strategy, Phil and I, which was given authorization by Gordon Brown, and that was something that I never believed would happen in years. And I think probably Phil's probably the best one to talk about how that came about. Because the model moved from the DAT to Hodge Hill.
I got a community safety manager there, Terence. Community safety manager's role. I didn't know what the hell the title meant, to be honest with you. So Hodge Hill's made up of Wolseley Green, Washmead, Alum Rock, Ward End, the Glebe, Shard End, Stechford, Hodge Hill, the Bromford. So it encompasses, you know, lots of different communities. You've got, you know, predominantly Asian Kashmiri community in Alum Rock. You've got Afghan community in Alum Rock. You've got, you know, predominantly white working class people in the Glebe and Shard End. And you've got predominantly other minorities in the other areas. So working in those areas, I didn't know what the priorities were, and on the constituency they had these 4 priorities, and it was housing, environment, crime, which was quite a broad spectrum, and one other one, and I forget, and I thought these don't make sense. So I spent 6 weeks walking around in those areas, having cups of tea with all the different groups and residents, knocking on the doors, saying what sort of issues do you have down here, and it was quite noticeable. The major issues in those areas was drug supply and drug use. And that was heroin, crack cocaine, and, you know, Haynes, and I thought, bloody hell, this is massive. How do I deal with this? How am I going to get the police on side with the treatment providers and have a strategy to do it, so we've got some targets and objectives to work to? It's no good doing it piecemeal when you're trying to deal with an area that big. And I thought, bloody hell, there's only one person I know that can help me do this. Grantley. So I said to, I spoke to Grantley and I said, would you come and work with me and help me develop something that will help to do prevention, treatment and enforcement around drugs per se, because that's everything that those subheadings should sit under, drugs and crime. And Grantley said, yeah, but it's not going to be that easy to get me to come from the DAP because, you know, I work there and I'm employed by them. And I had to go with the begging bowl to the ward committees and ask the councillors to fund a specific role. So I got 10 grand here and 10 grand there and 10 grand there and 5 grand there and 5 grand there, put it together and I had the money for a role. So I then had to go and sell it to the constituency senior manager, the senior managers themselves and the police chief superintendent. And that was really difficult to get buy-in from the police because they wanted to just do enforcement.
Yeah.
They weren't interested in the treatment, they just wanted to smash the doors in, you know. Very often they'd smash the doors in, they wouldn't even tell the council they'd smash their doors in. That's how disjointed it was.
They have their figures to achieve as well.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
So the only person that could put some semblance to the disorder, if you like, was Grantley, to help me get my head round how do we write this in a document that gives us targets and objectives and gives us a clear pathway about who should be doing what. So Grantley came and we eventually got data from the DAT and the police around drug use, drug enforcement, what types of drugs were prevalent, where the drugs were coming into Alum Rock, where they were then shunted out to the Glebe and Shard End, and dealers were then passing them on to the Bromford. So we then road mapped everything, so we had a network of what was going on, and very often we knew who was doing what as well. But getting that information, Terence, was a minefield, and they didn't want to give it us. They did not want to give it us, and we got called to a meeting, and one of the senior police officers sat me and Grantley in a room and said to Grantley, I've read this draft document that you've put together, this strategy, and go to page 10. Grantley flicks to page 10. He went, you can't write that. He said, I can write that because I've got evidence to prove exactly what I've said, and it was about where the supply of drugs was coming from and where it was then being sold to. And he said, you can't put that in the document. He said, I'll tell you what, Mr. So-and-so, I heard you on the radio the other night, and you haven't got a problem saying that most young black men are street robbers. So you go back on the radio and retract that statement, and I'll take it out the book. We never went on the radio, and Granny never took it out the book.
Can I just add to that? Because the thing is, you know, when I was growing up, Handsworth, Lozells, that's where the drug problem was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But like, I live over in Shard End now, and it's not acknowledged. And you know, areas like, you know, over this side of the city, you've got Druids Heath and places like that, and it's just as prevalent across the whole of the city. It cuts across class, culture, colour. It's not a colour problem. It's not a class problem. You mentioned earlier, it becomes a problem when you haven't got the money to fund it, and it just happens. You know, there's people that can fund it a lot longer and keep it hidden than there is in the inner cities that can fund it without having to turn
I
to
didn't
crime.
like us saying that the heroin was coming through Alum Rock and Washwood Heath and then getting splintered out to the other areas, including Shard End, the Glebe and the Bromford and Bordsley Green and places like that. They didn't want us to say that.
Yeah.
Grantley got the data to prove it. So once we got the data to prove it, Grantley and myself stood our guns and said, no, we've got the data to prove it. It doesn't matter whether you want to say it or whether you don't want to say it. That's what's going in the book. And Grantley stuck to his guns and said, right, that's staying in there.
How does it get into Alum Rock? I mean, how does it get into Birmingham? Because it gets into Birmingham through the orange.
One of the things that me and Grantley are good at is drinking cups of tea.
Coffee.
If I get an area, and me and Grantley are doing this, if we are given an area to manage, that's our area. Whatever goes on in that area, we got to know about it and we got to be able to react to it. I don't want to go to a meeting with Ernie and stand on the stage and be crucified by a councillor because I don't know what's going on. If it's my area, I should bloody know what's going on and I should take responsibility for it. And anybody that works for me and Grantley is going to take responsibility for it. And if you don't want to do it, there's the door. And that's the attitude we had, wasn't it?
Well, I knew what was expected of me,
Yeah,
and what was expected of me was to deliver.
yeah.
And I know a lot of people go to work and they deliver somewhat, but I worked out, as I said, from JD's person specifications, this is what you've got to deliver.
Yeah. sorry, Terence, one more thing.
Yeah, go on.
When Grantley came over, before he came over, there was a meeting with his manager. And I was in the meeting with his manager. Grantley didn't know that his manager was in this meeting. His manager said to my constituency manager, Grantley's a good worker, but he's really hard to manage, and I'd rather he didn't come and work for you. And I thought, he'll do for me.
I took no prisoners, I suppose.
He didn't know that at the time.
No,
Did you
didn't.
know, is that the first time he's heard that today?
No, I told him about it. I don't hide things from Bradley. I told him what happened, so he
But
knows.
you know, you've always got to remember, I think, that if you're doing something well,
Yeah.
it means that somebody might not be doing something well. And like I've had a word with many of you in here, and I've told you, the one thing that's wrong with delivery is that there isn't delivery or accountability. And I can't tolerate it, so I just stay out of that person's way. But if there's if I've got a reason to hold you to account, I'll try and be tactful and diplomatic, but there's a point when I say, right, okay, gloves are off now.
Tell it how it is.
No more. This happened to me on Saturday night. I found myself running across the room, and I got backstage and I said, no more.
Not to me.
Alright? We won't go into it, but
And was there no more? Or was there more?
No, there wouldn't be.
There was more.
no, there's no more.
There was more.
Because now it's in writing, and everybody knows in here, if it's written down, it happened, and if it ain't written down, it didn't happen. So the first thing you do is you write something down, because that might save your job.
If we could strip back a little from the Grantley in terms of writing a strategy and being at Hajil, how did you find it, or any experiences of working not just with service users, but how do you work with or manage in any shape or form the dealers?
Yeah.
As Grantley Haynes, one of the mans then.
Yeah.
You know, when you're honest with a dealer, they respect you. Because it's either they respect you or they don't. Now, I never went around shouting about dealers. I just told many of the dealers that I knew this is the job I do. Please remember that if a drug user is off their head, they're going to cause you problems. You can only get a problem from a drug user that hasn't got the money to fund what you are selling them. And you're either going to have to hurt them or you're going to have to get rid of them. My thing for you is just don't sell them anything anymore. Let them go to somebody else. Because your name and your face is going to end up in a police station. And you don't need that. So I was totally honest. Because it's not my business what their business is. It's my business to deliver treatment and to help people who want to get off. Now, dealers know there's plenty of people who will never seek treatment because they can afford to fund their use till the day they die. So why are you going to waste your time with somebody who's going to cause you a problem? It's just normal conversation. Don't do it. Find somebody else.
And did you have any opposition against the dealers
Yeah.
in terms of your
you're doing.
Tell
Oh,
me
yeah.
what you're doing and your presence. Because I was on the ground, same time you were on the ground, and I remember actually coming to Wheeler Street and thinking, why did my man put this office here? I was thinking because the thing is, I put my first office in Selly Oak,
Yeah.
but it was HIV, but it was tucked away somewhere. Nice building, had a nice leather chair. I was thinking, why did my man put this down here? Because I used to frequent back in my youth. Yeah, back in my youth, we used to frequent as an in-child and so on. So I was thinking, why did my man put this office here, of all places, off Wheeler Street? And at that time, it was one of the no-go zones. So
Yeah.
we used to literally have to drive round, take the long route round. Nobody goes down Wheeler Street. Long route to get to everywhere. And I'm thinking, why did he put it here? And yeah,
You remember I told you
you
why?
didn't. Yeah, you did mix my position, didn't you? You must have.
Yeah.
Because if you came onto my ends, and if we're not sure and there's an issue of trust, right? It's organisation. Is he working with the feds? Is he this? Is he that? So what opposition did you meet in terms of the deal?
Well, the dealers called me and they says, tell us what's happening. And I said, what's happening? He's come in and see me. Just be incognito and come in. I'll show you what's happening. So I said, that's where we do acupuncture. This is where we mix our herbal teas. This is where we see the clients. You like it? Sit down, let's have a chat. And then I'd invite them to my office.
Right. Well done, Gretny. It's, Jane touched on it being a hard to reach community.
Sorry, just so we can get it.
Really?
Come on.
Come on, guys.
Wow.
Barrington, ladies and gentlemen.
Tell them a bit about yourself, Barry.
Okay.
Yes, Jay.
My name is Barry, and addict in recovery. Like I say, 15 years clean. Sorry about being nervous. But I remember the first time I came across Grantley was walking into, I was told about a place on Wheeler Street, and back in the days it was taboo in the community, it's like stigma, especially around people of colour, black folks, people not wanting to know each other's business.
Yeah.
So I was struggling at the time, and I went in and it was a bit too much for me. So I went elsewhere. Yeah? But what was going on in Nansworth at the time, because I was up and down Wheeler Street, doing what I do, which was looking for victims, it was embarrassing for me to walk into a place and
Get help.
and ask for help, especially from another black person.
Yeah.
So I kind of found it easier going elsewhere. I went to other services,
Yeah.
and I did get the help that I got. But at the same time, it was just a matter of getting better. And after so long, I've got a journey. I became a prolific offender. I was one of the first ones who got an antisocial behaviour order in Birmingham, and one of the first person to go to prison for breaking that order. So I'm very aware I was a prolific offender in and out of prison until I got tested positive for heroin use. And the thing is, I didn't take heroin. I was stuck in a crack house for 2 to 3 weeks. And when I got arrested, they found heroin in my system. And that was in Wilson Green, by the way. And that was the start of my recovery. And, I've been on the road. I've been on the road clean ever since. I still have my demons. Someone mentioned about, you could always, I've got rid of the main demon, which was crack cocaine, but life is about demons, you know, you could go out, you could have a drink, you could, you know, relationship, you know, you just get on with it, you know what I mean? It's just part of it. So, with my nervousness, I'm going to end it here. All right?
The greatest thing for me was when Terence was talking about how we rolled out the strategy. We rolled out the strategy by training all the other services how to do what we were doing, because we realised that one service alone could not cater for the amount of users that were out there. So what we did was we trained other services, and the training was part of the Birmingham's crack cocaine strategy. And that's what was so good about it. So all of the services in Birmingham then became able to work with crack and cocaine users, just like Barry said. So that was one of the greatest things, and that was one of the issues of ethnicity that helped us overcome the problem of ethnicity with having a black team predominantly. It wasn't a black team predominantly, but we were seen as a black team because, you know, when people look at us, we were mainly black.
I ask you this based on my experience of setting up a service around an area, not in terms of location, but an area that's very stigmatized as well, HIV/AIDS. The question I was going to ask was similar, was what was it like personally to be pioneering in a space with little or no cultural literature or guidance?
Well, pioneering, I'd done it before, hadn't I? It was a transferable skill to me, because I didn't start my life off as a manager, as managing, you know, artists which were in the national charts. I didn't start my life like that, but I grew into it. You know, I lived in the ghetto. I used to go to the Earl Grey. I used to mix with Radix. I used to mix with all the sound systems. They knew who I was. I knew who, you know, Blacker Dread was. I knew who, you know, Festus from Coxon and Lloyd Coxon, and I knew all those people. So being in the community, to me, was just another extension. So I could go to, you know, the heads of communities and say, and they'd say, what are you doing, G? And I'd say, well, this is what I'm doing. Ah, good, man, that's good. Because I looked at the issues of...
Sorry, Phil.
Yeah, I looked at the issues of what I needed to do. And one thing I was good at is speaking to the community heads about what I was doing. So,
mention the meeting with Asher,
well,
because that is what you did.
yeah, well, I met one of the community heads, and he said to me, boy, well, what you're doing is really good. So he saw the benefits. But remember, I also remember that I lived almost next door to this community head, yeah? From the time I was about 11 years old. So I knew him. I played football, crunching tackles, you know, get up, you know, punch here, punch there. So we knew who each other was. We understood our DNA. And the one thing that anybody knows about me who's grown up with me, I guess, is that I don't back down. So, to me, it wasn't difficult to be the person that I was within the community. So I could go out, you know, and Keith can tell you, even though I had that job, we'd still be out on a Friday or Saturday night in you know, the shubbings or the blues parties or the dance halls or whatever. We was there, and nobody ever gave me no problems, because I was open and honest. So it's about holding that credibility. Who are you? So they knew if I didn't like something, I was going to talk to them about it. And if I did like something, I was going to talk to them about it, big them up, tell them great. You know, when I, you know, met upon the Inchai posse or the Burgers or the Johnsons, I spoke to them with respect, total respect. Because one way or another, I grew up in that environment. Yeah.
What advice would you give someone hoping to tackle a similar problem in their own city or community?
First of all, decide whether you're the right person to do something about it. Whether there's a point in time that you're going to back down or say, oh, I'm not doing that because I have an issue with protecting myself. Because if you have, the people in the community will see it. Somebody's going to recognize that you're fake. And if they recognize that you're fake, your history, so they've got to see that you mean or you're authentic in your actions. And then you learn top down, bottom up, about what it is your role is. And you share that role in a mission statement for the service that you're working with. So that when somebody comes in, doesn't matter if it's a 11-year-old kid or a 90-year-old person, telling them the same thing. This is what we do, this is why we're doing it, and this is what is going to come as a result of either success or failure. And you've got an opportunity to hold us to account.
Okay, yeah, come to the end of the questions now. So it says finally, so next question. So before we open
You think he's done all right holding me, being brutal? He's not Mr. Baron, that's it.
So finally, before we open it to the floor, now that the book is out,
Yeah.
just if you can just give us a quick insight into the process it took when deciding to put the crack cocaine treatment and me together, and why did you call it that?
Well, one of the reasons I called it that, I had a couple, I think it was a couple of titles in mind. And I remember speaking to you, and I gave you an idea of the titles, and you said, I like crack cocaine treatment to me. And because we'd done so much work together around the proofreading of the book, I decided that I would share that with you.
It's a very strong, solid title, which can be misconstrued on a shelf. I'm an author myself, I'm a published author myself. So if I was the reason why I asked the question is because with such a title, crack cocaine treatment and me, Brantley Haynes, it could be read as if I am a user of crack cocaine, and that's why I asked the question. Have you had any?
I have. I've had a lot of people say, I didn't know you were a user.
You dabbled.
I didn't know that you. No, man, you don't come across as a user. I said, well, what does a user come across like?
Alright.
And that makes them think, and they go back.
And read it again.
Yeah. So I said, what I would like you to do is read the subtitle So if I read the subtitle, Crack Cocaine Treatment and Me, the story of the development of crack cocaine treatment in Birmingham, UK, community outreach, alternative therapies, crisis and psychosocial interventions, self-help and mental health support. That's what the book's about. And I wrote it in a way that anybody, a user, can pick it up themselves, that a partner of a loved one can pick it up, that a mother or a father can pick it up and help their user get off, because it covers not only what crack cocaine is, because I talk about Griselda Blanco, I talk about George Young, I talk about Pablo Escobar. I go right into history of how cocaine starts, how it's made, how the process of making crack cocaine changes it from what is an acid to an alkali, which makes it smokable. And that cocaine hydrochloride, when you snort it, it goes into your mucous membranes. When you inhale it, it goes straight to your brain and it blocks what's known as the reuptake, of dopamine into your brain. So the receptors in your brain, which are dopamine receptors, get blocked the minute you inhale that, which makes it give you such a feeling of great. Now, there's 2 users in here that have identified themselves. That makes you feel so good, almost as good as Terence when he came off stage at the Hackney Empire in front of 2,000 people. That's how you feel when you take crack. But as you take it, it diminishes. The feeling diminishes because you can't get the same feeling because you've already triggered the dopamine to such a high extent. It's like when you pull the chain on a toilet, you take it all out. It takes time to refill it again, the cistern, before you can feel that, or to some extent, you feel that pleasure. With cocaine hydrochloride, it takes time to absorb it into your bloodstream, then into your brain. Crack cocaine goes straight to your brain, which is why it's so fat. And then it diminishes, I'd say between 7, 8 minutes, 10 minutes max. And then you gotta look for another rock, and another rock, and another rock. And when those rocks per shot are like £10, you can get through a lot of money very quickly. But once you take heroin or cannabis, you're gonna soften the amount of depression that you're gonna feel. And when I say depression, if you think about losing a parent, losing a child, losing a partner, then losing your job, then having your car written off, somebody breaking into your house and stealing all your personal items, that's the extent of the depression that you're gonna feel, all at once. And most people can't manage that. So the treatment for that is what's known as CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or motivational interviewing. So the skilled worker first has got to have those skills. So first of all, Jane talked about empathy. And when you talk about empathy, you're talking about Carl Rogers and the core conditions. Empathy, unconditional positive regard, those elements. So that's what you've got to be able to administer to this individual in a way that suits them and relates to them, because one size never fits all. So you've got to be able to manage that. You might have somebody that's coming in and they're just angry, what I used to term as excited delirium, which people in America have been shot for. All right? They don't realize that that's what triggers when you can't get the drug. Your mind's going into overdrive. So this book will help you understand those processes, understand how to manage relapses, understand how to look at them and assess them, because the assessment process is all there. So when you read it, you're able then to work with that individual in a way that you've never worked with an individual before. And that's the training that I did for Terence's team, other teams like Jane's team, when she was in Chardin, you know, other services, because the whole strategy had a training segment, had a young people segment, had a community segment, and I replicated that with the needs analysis of Hodge Hill. And because Phil understood it, we were able to communicate it. And when we spoke to Beresford Jorkins, who had the midnight bus, we were able then to go out to the community and share, rather than think everybody had to come to us.
You put together two books, British Reggae Music Industry and Crack Cocaine Treatment in Me. Now it's common knowledge that there's drugs within the music industry.
Yeah.
Do you switch off? Do you switch off from Grantley Haynes, the strategist, and Grantley Haynes, the music manager? Or how do you balance it both?
I should ask you that question, do I?
I don't smoke. But I know you don't. Well, I don't think you switch off. I don't think you switch off at all. And I say that because I've been places with you where you're meant to be watching the show, and you're focusing on this engineering rubbish, this sound is rubbish, that light's too bright. You know, and I can remember. I remember I saw you in London. I said to you, "What are you doing behind the desk?" You had a pretty shirt on. Remember? I said, "What are you doing behind there?" Like the sound. So I'm saying, like, how difficult is it not to switch off? Because you know you're in the music business, but you're also a strategist, and there's drugs play a part in both of them.
My role as your manager is to make sure you reach your full potential, and I take that very seriously.
Yeah.
I take that very seriously. So whenever there's sound quality not there, I'm gonna have a problem. At some point I'm gonna have a problem if it doesn't correct itself. So if there's an individual there that's stifling your progression for reasons that are not realistic or not substantial, he's gonna have a problem with me, or she's gonna have a problem with me.
So your experience within drug treatment, and you're also very much involved in the music business. Did you see a lot of drugs use while she was in the music business?
I did. I saw drugs. I saw 2 or 3 kilograms of cocaine on a table.
What was your policies as a music, artist manager in terms of drug use on tour, and was there was it acceptable?
Nobody that I've ever managed has used cocaine
while
performing. They have used cannabis, right? And I've said quite clearly to them, you ask them, you see that if we're going through the customs, I am not taking responsibility for it. It's on you. Please don't say that, guess what, I'm with him. You're not with me. You understand me? You understand me? You are not with me. I am going to tell the truth because I've told you, don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm very clear.
Yeah.
So if you then do it, and I then said, excuse me, officer, I've got to have a word with you. I'm not carrying it, I'm not your Cody.
Yeah.
Just like my dad, I grew up with my dad saying, if you go out that door, you're either going to stay out there till the morning, or when you come in here, I'm going to flog you. So take your choice.
That's the parameters.
Yeah. Be on your own head.
Okay. So yeah, the book is out, so let's all support it. What would you like readers to take away from it, whether they're professionals, families, or policymakers? This is your final question, by the way.
I'd like you to take away the sentiment that you've heard in this room. I'd like you to take the book away with me giving you a signed copy. And I would like you to remember that substances are substances. Alcohol is probably one of the biggest problematic substances out there. Cocaine is expensive. Heroin is expensive. They ruin some people's lives. But for some people, the drugs do work. That's what I'd like them to take.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gagnier, author of Phycho-Social.
I've got a question.
Sure, question then.
First of all, thanks for the great work you and the team have done. I just want to applaud these two guys here for being brave, because that's not an easy thing to do. Talk what you've been through. But the work that you was doing was great back then. But what's happening now? Who's doing it now?
Yeah.
Good question.
Spoke about that anyway.
Well, you see, what you got to remember is that there is a drug strategy right now, but it's not communicated in the same way. You all know what publicity does, and promotion and marketing. Tony Blair had a good marketing plan, so did Margaret Thatcher when she put out Tackling Drugs Together. Alright? They promoted it because it meant something to the 4 or 5 years they wanted to be in power for. So come on, Tony Blair knew that he'd been in power for 10 years, so he gave you a 10-year strategy. So what they've got to realise now, the government, is what type of drug strategy or policy are they going to do? Because right now, people that are users, they don't realise where do you go for treatment.
Absolutely.
Most of them don't know where you go for treatment, and they don't know that treatment works. Treatment is like rehabilitation, or what rehabilitation is supposed to be. It takes very skilled people to deliver treatment or help.
I can just add to that. Also, in regards to Richard's question, what is lacking is the strategy remains, the models remain, but the passion with the person that drives it once they leave, a lot of services start to dip, because not every service has the passionate drivers like the Haynes, like myself. Same happened to me when I left Broses to go to work for BBC. It just dipped, because as a founder, I thought I left competent people, and they were competent on paper, but they didn't have the passion that I had for my community and for the people living with HIV/AIDS. So,
And Jane, you know, people
Same
like
Jane.
Jane,
when you go,
Phil,
You can give them the recipe, but they won't bake the same cake.
100%,
Yeah.
100%.
Can I just say, Saran, what's your angle around legalisation? Is this something that you've actually thought about? Certain drugs should be legal because that's what, well, it works in many places.
Yeah.
But what do you think? Is this something that we could build upon in England?
well, I'm
Or should I
pro
say-
legalisation of cannabis,
Yes, of course.
but because, can anybody tell me how much strains of cannabis there is out there?
Many.
Well, give me a number.
50.
And more than that.
Good.
140.
Right, there's about 95 different strains of cannabis out there, and very few of them are pure. So what you have right now with cannabis, if it's going to be legal, the toxicology department of the government has to decide what strain is out there.
That's with cannabis.
Yeah, go on.
I'm talking about like they talk about what's these safe areas, just these safe houses.
What's injecting rooms
Yes,
and so on,
yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I believe in injecting rooms, you know why?
Okay, cool.
Because injecting rooms stop hypodermic needles from being left in public spaces. So if we can say, don't inject there, you can inject here under the safety of a nurse or a doctor, then that's got to be a good thing, because once people are addicted to intravenous heroin use or opiate use, they're going to snowball, they're going to speedball, they're going to do all sorts of things because they want what they get or the feelings they get more than they want to live sometimes. Because life for most people isn't that great. And some people do want to get rid of themselves, they want to escape. So it's a real thing. And the policymakers forget that their lives aren't, that the lives of individuals aren't like theirs. But I always remembered where I came from and how hard it was. And the struggles that my peers and I had. I don't know what else to say. So I do believe that there's other strategies that need to be discussed, just like Tony Blair used to have the Prime Minister's stocktake, some of you may or may not know, and he used to say, right, what are we doing about drug-related deaths in Scotland? Because in Scotland, you'll see videos with them chopping up people to death. It's a real thing. And in order to deal with it, you've got to be just as real as James says. So you can't be frightened. You've got to be willing to be involved. So if you're not willing to be involved, leave it alone and give it to somebody else who is. Any question? Any other?
So this young lady, your hands up first. Then.
Yeah, it basically covered a lot of what I was going to ask, but I do actually commend you on the way that you've done in actually Newtown, because I literally live on Melbourne Avenue, just the road off.
Right.
And I do remember in the early 90s, us looking at me going to secondary school, because I went to Holt.
You're
And me-
right.
Yeah, and me seeing obviously people that alright, then that we will just stigmatise them because, oh, you know that he's on the thing, he's on the crack, and the way as a community would actually push them away. So we can kind of see now, even though unfortunately, because I still live down there, still live the same house, this kind of social problem is still occurring. It's actually more heroin now.
Yeah.
And it has come back into the community, and there isn't really no one that is actually advocating and trying to seek support, because that community spirit has gone.
Yeah.
In the 21st century, even nowadays, a lot of people don't even know who they live next door to.
Right.
So that community spirit has actually gone, and you've got a lot of HMOs, you've got people that coming from London and have moved to Birmingham, and where, to be honest, that street now, Wheeler Street and Melbourne Avenue and all them areas now, it's actually reverted. It's actually gone back with heavily drug use and a lot of social problems. So it's a shame that the work that you've done and the passion that you brought to that community to try and get rid of the stigma of the crime, the drugs that used to happen in Newtown is actually reverted back.
I hear what you're saying because I've seen it, because I still eat food from bins and I still walk up and down that road. What I'll say is this: the people that are responsible, the community, individuals and the community have got to hold your council to account. I've just started writing another book with my friend Phil Granger. The book's called Our Country, Our City, Our Streets, Our Safety. And in that book, we're going to tell you how to hold the council to account, the NHS to account, the police to account, and to put your points of view forward. Because if they get money for a job, we'll tell you what the job is, how you can understand it, and how you can hold them to account. And I'm not making any apology for that. I'm willing to go into all of those heads and hold them to account. I've got nothing to lose. You can do whatever you like to me, but I'm going to do that. And my friend Phil Granger is going to do it also.
Yeah, so I think you all know people that want to write a book, or some of us want to write books ourselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in an entire lifetime never get to do that. You've written 2 within the space of 12 months. And I just want to say how commendable that is, but also what an inspiration you've been to me and encouraging me to start writing. So that said, if somebody you didn't know came up to you and said to you, I've got 15 quid, I want to buy one of those books, which one would you recommend them to buy and for what reason?
Wow.
Now you know how you know he's got to be a friend of mine, don't you? Because to do that to me,
You just do a buy one get one free.
Jane told me.
I'll do a discount. How's that?
There you are.
I'll do a discount. If you buy both, I'll do them for £25. How's that? Today only.
All right.
But they are both, you know, I've actually read both books in their initial stages and in their completed stages, and they are both good books. They do sit in different markets.
Yes.
I'm also a published author myself. I've got 3 books out, and so I know that in terms of where you position your books, it depends where you position your books is where the best are. Personally, I love the reggae music, British Reggae Music Institute, and that's the reason why, 1, I'm in the industry, and 2, I feel like it's one of those books that I feel like every household just needs to have, whether it's for the knowledge or to pass down generations and generations. Not everyone's going to be, even though it affects everyone, not everyone has the same interest in this. So whereas it's music, my son who's 12, turning 13, he's interested in music. He wants to know who done what. You know, he wants to look at Grammy pictures and say, does he know him? Does he know him? How does he know him? You know, he wants to know. So my personal favourite is obviously the reggae music industry, but buy them both, but sort of let you know.
Yeah, so there's your answer.
Randy, do you remember the book?
You cop out. You've
You've
answered every hold them to account. You've answered everything spot on. Bang on for
This
Is that good? Okay.
This is where I step in as
This
a manager.
You know what? I'll say this. I started off my career in the music business, and I'm almost ending my career in the music business. So the one that I'd probably encourage people to buy is the British reggae music industry.
He said squeezing.
Yeah.
I've already got
And that's not only because of that, it's because of on Sunday, Keith and I were selling the books and selling t-shirts, and I just didn't know where the time went. And after about, we came in, I had loads of books when I came in and loads of t-shirts. And by the time I left the O2 Academy, I had 2 t-shirts and 1 book.
Wow.
And I had about 25 books, and I don't know how many t-shirts did I have, Keith? Yeah, and they were gone. People were just buying both of them. So there is an attraction for a number of different reasons. Windrush Legacy, because it covers that. I mean, people ask me all the time, well, what's in the book? I said, the transatlantic slave trade, African Caribbean history, how they were positioned in the Caribbean, and when they left the Caribbean to come to England, that was the Windrush generation. Now it's what we did with it as the generation of the Windrush generation, and that generation is UB40, Steel Pulse, Aswad, Maxi Priest, yeah, Tipperary, Pato Banton, Maccabee, Papa Levi, Saxon, all those great, Lovers Rock, Janet Kay, Dennis Bavell, Matumbi, yeah?
Terence Bolland.
Yes. You know what? He's in there, but the beauty is his rise from December last year to now is sentiment to how much talent this guy's got. And would you like to know this? The first place he ever performed at a concert was right on this stage.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And it was sold out, rammed in here. Arts Rob, who's at the bar. It was their biggest ever night. Their biggest take was that night. And after that, booked him into Jersey. After that, booked him in London, Bojangles Club, was it? And after that, I talked with one of the biggest promoters in London who developed the musical, which is what you saw.
With us, Senegal and Gambia.
Yes.
all right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
That's Kristen, sorry.
Okay.
That's Kristen.
Yes, just want to ask, given that there's the prison population
Yeah.
and drugs, is there a reason why you didn't start off your strategy there? And how many in the community came out of prison that were involved in your project?
That's a really good question. Tough. And I expect it from you as somebody with your history and experience. yes, there's quite a few people that are in the book that have come out of prison because there was a prison part of it. I worked with John Podmore from Brixton Prison and Belmarsh Prison, who has written a testimonial at the back of the book for me. I worked with Gabriel Scally, who was NHS, what is he? He's very celebrated, Gabriel Scally. A number, Kate Davies. Oh gosh, there's so many people who've written testimonials at the back, including Phil Granger. But to answer your question more specifically, yes, there is a certain prison part of the project which lends itself to Carrots, the Carrots program, and with young people, it lends itself to that. And we trained those people, those workers, and I do expert witness work now, and I've just finished an expert witness report for somebody who is in Wandsworth Prison at the moment, and I think he's going to feel better because of that report and because of the understanding that I have of using crack cocaine and heroin together and speedballing. So yes, the answer to that is it's represented in the book.
Right, but why did you choose community more than the prison environment?
I chose community because that's the when they say the unseen guest, that little thing on most Caribbean people's wall. You can't die. When a person gets arrested, right, they get tested and they can say, well, I'm on crack or I'm on heroin, and they'll get a script very quickly, right? Now, if you're in the community, you can go undisclosed or unknown for years, and you're not gonna be seen by mental health services. You're not gonna be seen by a GP. In fact, if you do be seen by a GP, they're gonna do very little for you, right? However, if you're seen by a drug worker team, they've got so many people to see and to treat that you're hardly going to get a service. In prison, you get a service.
But we know that people who go in prison end up on drugs. But the thing is, because of your unique work and style, if that had started in the prison, those prisoners who had short sentences and coming out, do you think that would have helped them probably to support or assist other people within the community in order to?
Yes, I do, because I've worked in Long Lartin. I've worked in a number of different prisons delivering training, but they just haven't got the capacity of officers to do that work. I've done work in, Wandsworth Prison, Brixton Prison, Belmarsh Prison. I've worked in prisons abroad, like in Prague, Warsaw, places like that, the therapeutic communities over there. But what you've got sometimes is the problem of the governors and the prison system that doesn't allow for much more than a short, sharp burst of information or treatment rollout. So what it takes is for you to go to government, and the only thing that's going to change government's policies is the community getting together and saying, we want this to take place. That's what needs to happen now. No longer can the community afford to be quiet and think that it's just going to happen, because it's not. If you don't complain about systems and the process, things are going to deteriorate a lot more. And life, as we know it, is going to get a lot worse. We've got to take a stand.
Ladies and gentlemen,
So I'm available now to sign a few books, reggae books. I have some there, and I have some.
and can we all, before that, can you follow, is it Grantley Haynes, what's your Insta? Grantley.Haynes. Who uses Instagram in here?
Or my Facebook.
Yep, so
I'll give you a card, and I've got it all ready
make
for
sure
you.
everyone's following today. Please post your pictures online and tag him. Yeah, please. No, that's all right. Alright, so Facebook.
They want the raffle drawn.
Oh, the raffle.
Can I do it after while can somebody else draw the raffle while I'm signing some books?
We are pushing time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come and see you.
They come in.
We listen to your stuff about these yards quite a lot. Yeah. Okay. Really enjoy it. I think you're going to do really well.
Yeah, it's looking well.
See you again, man. Yeah,
We've got Terence to draw the raffle for us.
How are you? You're right.
How do you know who? Oh, alright. But I don't know. Can you give me?
Yeah.
Okay, the first number is 130. You got it? Yeah. Choose the book. Choose the book. Okay, next one.
You're right.
Excellent work. Excellent work.
Next one is number 184. 184. 184. Oh, let me check.
It's just, there's only one of him, isn't there?
184.
And so he said there's not enough people.
Going. 184. Going. That's cool. 184.
Okay. Have you checked the ticket?
184. Just check your ticket. 184.
She's on her phone, she's not.
Okay. 160. Yeah. Was that the book?
Should be there.
Yeah, I was going to buy it.
Oh, is that the prize? Is there any more?
Check the book.
Last time, can I have that one? I bought that one
Oh,
already.
Gretchen has already bought this one, so yeah, we'll let you have the other one. We'll sign it. So you. That's it, yeah? You done?
He'll sign it for you then.
Please, can you remember to take photos and follow Gretchen's Insta?
I'll be doing a post.
Alright, that's right. Tagging, yeah.
Sign what you want. Sign what you want right now. Where do you want to go in life? What do you want to do in the next 5 years? If you really want to.
Yeah, because I do want to but you know, need to fix card, you can only
Please, we didn't win the bloody raffle.
He hasn't got another one. Okay.
Yeah, all right. You get home safe.
Yeah, I'm gonna. See ya.
Yeah, it's got cars. I'll send you the pictures. Yes, and we'll see how it definitely, wait up in my card. Oh, my God.
You got it.
If I think it's okay,
Say hi to the team, please.
You didn't look too impressed with your back. Yeah, you want to go to the other
alright, nice to meet you.
Okay.
You're buying a book from them? I've already bought. Yeah, that like finding him.
Tell Bradley that his friend said us phone him tomorrow.
Oh, who's what's his name?
White guy, Stephen.
Oh, I'll mention it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, I'm Bradley's sister.
Wow.
Yeah. You've seen me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Basil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, greatly, take care.
All right, see you soon.
Check out your sister. So much more. How much that cost?
My sister-in-law. I've had them quite a while. Put it this
Around
way.
$2,000 there.
There's 400.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Oh, a lot
like
more.
that.
Because
That's what
you got to keep
it was
treating them.
400 at the time. It was worth it. Put it that way.
Of course.
It's all about being work, how you anyway, looking like this.
It's the.
Okay, go.
You want to, Tanya, we'll take a picture.
Is that still going?
You stop it.
Oh, was that